Good morning. Today we'll be working on Lesson 7, Compute with Scientific Notation. Our objective is to compute with numbers written in scientific notation, which is something that we don't often do. First, we'll take a look at multiplication and division with scientific notation. You can use the product of powers and quotient of powers properties to multiply and divide numbers written in scientific notation. Example 1. Evaluate 7.2 times 10 to the third times 1.6 times 10 to the fourth. Express the result in scientific notation. So the first thing we do is apply the commutative and associative properties, and that means simply we can multiply in any order. And what I'm going to do is take the base 7.2 and 1.6 and put those in parentheses with a multiplication sign between them. Then I will take the powers of 10 to the third and 10 to the fourth, and put those in parentheses with a multiplication sign between them. So I'll be multiplying 7.2 times 1.6 and 10 to the third times 10 to the fourth. 7.2 times 1.6 equals 11.52. And then we have to think about when we're multiplying with exponents, remember we can add them. So we apply the product of powers. So that gives us 11.2 times 10 to the third plus 4, which becomes 11.52 times 10 to the seventh. And now remember, in order to write a value in scientific notation, it has to be between 1 and 10. So I have to move my decimal place in 11.52 1 to the left, so that will give me one more power of 10. So I will end up with 1.152 times 10 to the 8th. And again, this extra power comes from moving the decimal one place to the left. So our final answer is 1.152 times 10 to the 8th. Example 2. In 2010, the world population was about 6,860,000,000. The population of the United States was about 3 times 10 to the 8th power. About how many times larger is the world population than the population of the United States? So first we have to estimate the population of the world and write it in scientific notation. So if we take 6,860,000,000 and we approximate that to be about 7 billion, or 7 times 10 to the 9th, then we can take 7 times 10 to the 9th and divide it by 3 times 10 to the 8th. Next, we can start grouping our like values. So I can take 7 over 3 and put that in parentheses, and 10 to the 9th over 10 to the 8th and put that in parentheses. When I divide 7 by 3, I get approximately 2.3. And remember, quotient of powers, 10 to the 9th over 10 to the 8th becomes 10 to the 9 minus 8, or 10 to the first. So my final answer is approximately 2.3 times 10 to the first. So the population of the world is about 23 times larger than the population of the United States. Now let's move on to addition and subtraction with scientific notation. When adding or subtracting decimals in standard form, it is necessary to line up the place values. In scientific notation, the place value is represented by the exponent. Before adding or subtracting, both numbers must be expressed in the same form. So for 3, we need to evaluate each expression and express the result in scientific notation. So we've got 6.89 times 10 to the fourth plus 9.24 times 10 to the fifth. Now the interesting thing about adding and subtracting with scientific notation is that our powers have to be the same. So we have 10 to the fourth here, 10 to the fifth here. In order to be able to add these, I have to move my decimal place in 9.24 1 to the right and take away 1 power of 10. So if I move my decimal 1 to the right, I will get 92.4 times 10 to the fourth. So now I've got the same powers of 10 to the fourth and 10 to the fourth. Now I can group my terms here. So I've got my 2 decimal values, 6.89 plus 92.4, and I keep my same power of 10 times 10 to the fourth. When I add these two together, I get 99.29 times 10 to the fourth. And then to put this back into scientific notation, I do have to move this decimal one place to the left, and I get 9.929 times 10 to the fifth. And that extra power comes from moving this decimal one place to the left. So for problem 4, I've got a new scenario to look at. Here I'm subtracting a value written in scientific notation and a value in standard form. So the solution here is pretty easy. All I need to do is make sure that both values are in scientific form. So I can take 11,610,000, convert that to scientific notation, where it would be 1.161 times 10 to the 7th. Now since I have my powers of 10 the same. I can take 78.3 and subtract it from 1.161 to get 77.139 times 10 to the 7th. And because 77 is not a number between 1 and 10, I have to move my decimal one place to the left, which would give me 7.7139 times 10 to the 8th. And remember, that extra power of 10 came from moving the decimal place 1 to the left. So your assignment for today is page 63, number 1, 3, 4, 8, and 9.